Hi everyone, my name is Janique and today I'll be doing a chapter reading from Guardians of the Garden by Theresa Pocock, presented by Itsy Bitsy Bookbits. Prologue. Thursday. Seth. I'm going to wash my hands, Seth said to his father as he scooted off the diner's red vinyl seats. Order me the biggest hamburger they've got. To his surprise, his father didn't object. He just nodded his head and asked Seth's mom and sisters, "What looks good to you? Order anything you like." Seth turned his back on his family as his sisters echoed his own thoughts. "What's up with Mr. Nice Act, Dad? Yeah, where's the flesh lecture?" Though his back was to her, Seth knew his sister just finger-quoted the word "flesh" by the emphasis she'd placed on the word, and he agreed. His father was what military brats like himself called a hardball, basically hard-headed. His failure to reprimand them with the typical admonition to only eat meat in a time of famine could not go unacknowledged by the Johnson children. He'd fully expected his father to take him by the arm, barring his escape to the bathroom, and raise an eyebrow at him, forcing Seth to reveal his real order, the barbecue salad with onion rings instead of chicken. But the stars had aligned, and Seth would soon bite into his first American hamburger. Oh, there were hamburgers in the other places he'd lived, but according to those who knew, America's did the burger best, just like Tamia was best in Egypt. Unfortunately, you couldn't just walk the streets of Cairo any longer and pick up some tamaya unless you were anxious to get knifed. Another reason to be glad he and his family had left. Things were still ticking along here in the good old US of A. It was like Americans didn't even know there was a war heading their way. The thought sobered Seth and knotted his stomach. They'd been in emergency mode for weeks, not stopping their flight for anything. And now this, a detour to Missouri, of all places. Seth thigh rammed into the corner of a table he failed to maneuver around, and the pain pulled his thoughts out of their spiral. His watering eyes attempted to focus as he limped toward the food prep area and bathrooms. Rubbing at the bruised leg, he noticed a man with sculpted black hair and a suit coat gesticulating to a line cook. He caught Seth's eye because he looked odd back there in the hot, greasy area in his nice clothes and sunglasses. The rich man looked at Seth and lifted his sunglasses off his nose to tuck them in a pocket, just as Seth found the out-of-sight hallway leading to the lavatory. Pushing open the door labeled "Gents," Seth gingerly stepped between bits of toilet paper littering the tile floor. Annoyed at the forced gymnastics, he was still impressed by the fluffy mess. This little restaurant in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, had loads of paper products and smelled like nondescript fruit. Pretty much the most heavenly public bathroom he'd seen since his father was stationed in London 4 years ago. Cairo loos were total holes in the ground, literally, and the Greyhound bus they'd just left behind wasn't much better. But it was the cargo ship that brought them from Egypt to America that was the worst. It was so nauseating, in fact, that Seth had bathed in those toilets as much as anything else, so he felt grateful for this one, with its freshly painted walls an automatic hand dryer. It occurred to him that gratitude for a bathroom was a bit strange, but he couldn't help it. Smiling, Seth moved to the pristine white sink. He slid the silver dial to the side and let the cold water run over his hands and lower arms. It felt rather wonderful, all cold and soft, and he watched as the water turned brown on contact with his hands, scattering little speckles of diluted mud. Though they'd been walking on paved roads since the bus dropped them off, the wind or the scourge of Missouri, as he was beginning to think of it, constantly blew dust and dirt up in little twisters. The grime caked his every crevice. He seriously considered stripping down and shoving as much of himself into the small sink as he could, but decided against it just as the door to the bathroom creaked open. The sound brought Seth's glance around. A tall, bald man in military pants and a tight t-shirt pushed through the wooden door and clomped through the toilet paper with his standard issue military clodhoppers, effectively gathering the mess up. Following right behind the large bloke was the slick-back looking gent from the kitchen in his tailored suit coat and loafers. After living in the dangerous demographics of Cairo for 4+ years, warning bells went off at the sight of this rich man and his bodyguard. He would have to forego the fancy hand dryer and opt for the quickness of a paper towel. Grabbing one, he used it as he moved around the two men. But Mr. Rich Guy greeted him. "Hey there, you're Seth, right? Seth Jones." His loud voice using Seth's first name threw him off and got his heart racing. "Nope, sorry, you got the wrong kid." "Oh, that's right. Ezekiel, that fish, changed your last name. What was it again?" Seth stopped his cautious progress towards the door. "Johnson. That kind of sounds like Jones, doesn't it? Jones's son. Your daddy has always been too smart for his own good, but has never been accused of being creative." Seth moved in a more determined manner now. He had no idea what this all meant, but he knew he wanted out of it. However, the big guy blocked his way. The young guy continued speaking. "Hey, kid, don't flip out on me. I'm Jeremiah Jones. I'm your dad's cousin, remember?" They all paused, letting this new information sink in. Thankfully, too, it stopped Seth from kneeing the bodyguard in the nuts before running for his life. Jeremiah said disarmingly, "I contacted you like 6 months ago about the pocket watch. You said you'd never heard of me. You told me your dad claimed all your relatives were dead." Seth blinked at the man, not understanding how this could be happening. This man was Jeremiah Jones, his father's cousin, Seth's cousin once removed. Blinking, Seth recalled when he'd found the golden pocket watch in his dad's underwear drawer with the inscription "Jones" to the bitter end. "Your true brother, W.J." He'd put the watch on the web, hoping to discover a long-lost family member, or at least a clue about whose watch it was. With no roots, no relative, no one to connect him to on this planet, Seth felt lost. Even in his immediate family, things were hard. Abigail and Lillian had one another, and the fact that they were twins deepened their bond. They tolerated him, but they didn't need him. His parents both had big lives, careers. His dad's job moving them around all the time exacerbated the issue of Seth finding a best friend. or any real friend for that matter. Sometimes Seth looked around himself and realized that in his 17 years of life, he had yet to truly connect with another human. Seth narrowed his eyes, examining his cousin skeptically. This Jeremiah guy did look like his dad, with his Native American skin tones, thick dark hair, and large, clear brown eyes. He recalled his conversation with this man. He called about the watch, claiming it was his cousin's, and asked where Seth got it. And a conversation about his extended family commenced. The words, "This is my cousin," pinballed around in Seth's head. Finally, he shook that idea out in the form of, "How in the world did you find me?" He gestured to their surroundings. The once posh washroom felt awkward now. "That is a crazy story. I'll tell you sometime. But look at you. You are the spitting image of your dad." Jeremiah held out his arms as if he wanted a hug. "Jeremiah in the flesh. I can't believe this," Seth said, tentatively moving toward the taller man who took him by the shoulders and gazed at him before clapping him on in a friendly man hug, with lots of backslapping and awkward laughing. When Seth pulled away, he thought of something. His father knew about the watch and Jeremiah. He wasn't sure how, but once it had blown up and was out in the open, their relationship never went back to the easy thing it was before. His father's serious betrayal resulted in constant father-focused, over-the-top hostility on Seth's part. Naturally, the thought of Jeremiah, whom his father obviously would rather think of as non-existent, being here with his highly trained, militant father in the next room was a recipe for drama and possible dismemberment. Worried, Seth asked, "You're still in one piece, so I assume you haven't seen my dad yet?" Jeremiah laughed nervously. "He's made it perfectly clear he'd rather I be feeding the fish in the Great Missouri. So no, I don't want to chance it." He glanced over at his bodyguard. Seth spared a single thought to acknowledge that the big bodyguard might be able to take down his dad. Maybe. His cousin continued, "Actually, I came here for you." "You came all the way here just to see me? How did you even know I would be here? We left Cairo so suddenly, with all the bombings and the gathering military. Here in the States it's not as bad, but how could you possibly find me in all the chaos?" Seth clamped his lips shut to stop himself from rambling. Jeremiah smiled indulgently and stated, "Simple. Money. Money can make lots of things happen. I knew you'd be an adult soon, and thought maybe after you were out from under your father's thumb, you might want to connect. So I kept an eye on you. But it was all a waste because your father brought you right to my doorstep. I own this diner. I live up the road at the compound." The back of Seth's neck clenched in a prickly sensation. This man cared enough about Seth and the lies his father had forced on him that he used expensive resources to keep tabs on him? Now Seth's throat clenched. He blinked excessively and shook his head to clear his watery vision. "I can see you are a Jones in your heart. We, none of us, like to be separated from our people." Seth nodded, still trying to contain his overwhelming emotions. "That lie, the everybody's dead lie, it did a number on ya. Hey? I know, kid, I know. These things are hard, and we can never understand how or why they happen. But hey, you're here now." Seth nodded as he looked at his relative, and just like that, Seth felt down to his toenails, a connection to something. The world, life, blood, he wasn't sure. It was an odd yet welcome feeling. Do you think Dad brought us here to meet you? Seth asked hopefully. I'm certain he did not, Seth. Your father wants nothing to do with us, though none of us knows why. Confused by the comment, he looked down at the linoleum floor. Before too many moments had passed, Seth felt another emotion building in his gut and pounding his heart. Anger, anger at his father, his mother, anger that he'd felt alone his whole life, needlessly alone. He'd had nothing, no one until now. He had to swallow it down, the wave of emotions. Is he my relative too? Seth chin gestured at the big guy. Gerald? Jeremy's face scrunched up. Oh no, he's the help. But kid, there are a bunch of us. Just up the road, there's a small colony, if you will, of Joneses and our hired help. Been there since the 1800s. At this, the anger sitting in his gut that he thought he'd momentarily smothered flared. His father was a total douchebag liar. He'd kept them all a secret. For what reason? That was the biggest unanswered question of all. He opened his mouth to find out the answer, but Jeremiah moved on. Unfortunately, knowing your father, I don't have very much time before he comes in here to check on what's taking you so long and catches me talking to you. But I have a lot to say. First, I know why your father is here, and I know where he is taking you. And kid, it's not a place you want to be, believe me. Surprised, Seth sputtered. How? What do you mean? Jeremiah interrupted. Kid, you gotta listen. This place, it's backward and strange. It's going to seem like Hicksville, full of rainbows and butterflies, but let me tell you, the people there are eccentric and dangerous. In fact, there is one person in particular that is extremely dangerous. Dangerous how? Seth had little trust for his dad of late, but he did know one thing for certain. His father was fiercely protective. How could he be taking them to a dangerous place? Jeremiah answered him, I can't tell you everything. I've learned from experience that seeing is believing. Okay, Seth said and tilted his head to the side, wondering where this man was going. So, I know we just met, but you just happen to be in a unique position to help us with a huge problem. And as a member of the Jones family, I'm hoping I can count on you. Weary again, Seth leaned back. You want me to help you with a dangerous person? Yes, but not in the way you think. Jeremiah protested, noticing Seth's obvious hesitation. He took Seth by the shoulder. We just need eyes and ears in the place. You see what I'm getting at? We would never compromise you at all. Just watch and listen. See what you can find out. What exactly will I be listening for? And who is this dangerous person? Seth asked, a little thrill racing up his spine. This dangerous person is a mystery, and the only clue we have is that the person is probably your age. So, trust no one. My age? Seriously? Yes. What does this person do that's dangerous? Seth, please, I need to tell you more, and we are out of time. Once you get to Edenia, all will be clear. Just look for what's out of the ordinary and tell me about it. With this, he pulled out an old thick flip phone from his tailored slacks. Seth took the phone. Now that phone might not work inside Edenia. We fixed it so it won't break, but it might not work except in a certain place. The town is in a sort of dead zone. Keep it secret. Don't let them take it from you, or I won't be able to help you. Call me secretly with that before you leave the diner. I'll tell you more then. Adina? Yes. Will I need like other gear? Seth asked, that thrill racing up his back again. No, he patted Seth again. You won't, I'm sure of it. But just in case, he tapped the phone. We have endless monetary resources. Seriously, if you come up with a plan and need something to pull it off, I am a phone call away. Okay, and the dangerous person? We will talk about that later. Seth, this information is important to me, to us. We need to know anything and everything unusual that you see or hear. Okay? Okay. Now, I understand that when someone does a job, they need to be paid, right? Seth cocked his head to the side, not understanding this turn of the conversation. We are willing to pretty much give you whatever you want for it. Cash, a car, a house, college tuition, you name it. All Seth could think of was how none of that stuff would do him any good when war was coming. But Jeremiah went on. But I have a feeling I know what you're going to ask for. Jeremiah got this pained look in his eye, this sadness knotting his forehead. It's something you want bad, something your parents are ignoring right now, something that has to do with someone you love very much. Confused, Seth considered, but then Jeremiah's words brought on a flash of understanding. Suddenly, Seth knew what this detour was not about. It was not about his sister Lillian. He could feel anger and sadness battering at his tear ducts and breath and heart. Are they just going to let her die? They are, aren't they? He whispered. They are taking us to some tiny town with no specialists, no cancer treatment center, nothing. They are giving up. Jeremiah nodded. I know, it's hard to believe. More shoulder patting. I know. The man paused for a moment before going on in a quiet, intense way. She's my cousin too, but Seth, there is hope. What if I promise that I will do everything money can buy to help you with that problem? In fact, I can guarantee if you get me what I need, not only will she get better, but your sister will live a long life. All you have to do is this one little thing for me. Though he didn't understand how a promise like that could be possible, he grabbed the lifeline and held it fast. Words and tears of relief and hope poured out. Yes, of course, I'm in. I just watch and report anything out of the ordinary to you. He nodded. For now, once you get in, I will tell you more about the dangerous person. He took Seth by the shoulder. And hey, you're acting like part of the family already. Us Joneses, we stand by one another. Come rain or shine, come snow or drought, to the bitter end.